Hello everyone and welcome to yet another GTA Online Racing episode, and today I'm going to be talking about slipstreaming because I did touch on it in a recent episode, but I do want to go over it a bit more and possibly give some tips on how to use it, as well as just talk about the mechanic in general and why it's not very good and why you should probably turn it off. So yeah, the two races that you're about to see are one from Party in Palito Bay, where they're both from the subscriber lobby, but they're both from different subscriber lobbies. So when we last did the subscriber lobby, I had to split it up into two halves. This is from the first one. The next race is on Los Santos Grand Prix. That's from the second one, and they basically show very, very big wins. I'm basically on my own for a lot of the time, but because of the way my tracks are designed, you do see other bikes, other cars from time to time in different areas because of, that's just the way I made my tracks. So yeah, they show big wins, and I put them in just to illustrate that sometimes, one of my recent episodes was on feeling the pressure, and if you don't feel any pressure, if you can just get away, get a bit of a gap, and focus on what you need to be focusing on, focus on just getting it round the track as quickly as possible, you'll do very well. And that it shows the difference between the different races that I had. I don't make any mistakes, well, not that I can remember anyway. I'm not looking at the map all the time, I'm not looking at the timing systems, and it shows in the race results. I actually lap people in both of these races, as you'll see. So it's just to show a bit of a comparison between a recent episode where I was talking about feeling the pressure. But onto the main topic, which is slipstreaming. Now, I've made it. The first episode of this series was all about catch up. So the first ever episode of any GTA Online Racing video was about catch up, and it was basically me having a big old rant about how catch up was terrible for the game, and I couldn't believe that they'd included it. And during that video, I said that I didn't mind slipstreaming as much because it was closer to a real life aspect of racing, really. Slipstreaming is present, nowhere near to the effect that it is in GTA, but it is present in real life. And catch up was kind of a bit of a horrible mechanic because it literally just slowed you down. There was nothing you could do about it. If you were in there, it was basically penalizing you for being in the lead. But recently we've obviously had a bit of a change, and that is the change is that you can now turn slipstreaming off. So you can now obviously you could always turn catch up off, but you can now turn slipstreaming off as well. And you can obviously have catch up on with slipstreaming off, or have slipstreaming on with catch up off like you could before. There's a few different varieties that you can have. Now for me personally, I have slipstreaming and catch up off, and racing that way, which I've done quite a lot now. That's how I always race, that's how me and my crew always race. It's eye-opening, I have to say. It's been a bit of an interesting experience to be racing with slipstreaming off, because it makes the races so much better. It's a much more pure race. When you have slipstreaming on, for example, and you go to overtake someone, it's very easy. All you have to do is sit behind them, wait till you get to the straight, and there you go, you're straight past them. It's very easy. It's like using DRS in Formula 1. It's not really, there's nothing to it. But when slipstreaming is off, you actually have to work to overtake. So you have to beat them on the brakes, you have to, get the right line, get a better line than them, wait for them to make a mistake, hassle them into making a mistake. You have to do something other than just waiting for them on a straight, and it takes a lot more skill and a lot more ability to actually be able to overtake someone when slipstreaming is off. So that is why I think you have to, if you have any decent ideas, if you really want to be pure in terms of the racing side of it, you have to have slipstreaming off. And obviously you should always really have catch up off, but having seen some races now where catch up is on and slipstreaming is off, I would say that catch up being on isn't that much of a disadvantage anymore. When slipstreaming is on and catch up is on, the the disadvantage that you have from being in front is huge, because when you're automatically slowed down because of catch up, and you I said I didn't make any mistakes. Yeah, right, of course I made a mistake. There you go. By the way, this is the last the last race of the subscriber lobby, so it's a 5-lap race of the Los Santos Grand Prix circuit, and it was the last race that we did of the night. So yeah, you know, when slipstreaming is on and catch up is on, the disadvantage that you have from being up front is huge. You know, you are slowed down via the catch up mechanic. Then the slipstreaming is even worse when catch up is on, so you can have someone get a massive slipstream behind you from way back, just easily overtake you, and you can't really do anything to get back at them because catch up is on and you're already slower. Then it obviously works the other way. They are suddenly slowed down, you get them within slipstream range, and you just keep swapping positions like that. You know, when slipstream and catch up are on, it's a lot worse for good drivers to have a decent race, because it's literally just a battle of who gets the slipstream last, essentially, and who doesn't make the most mistakes. You can take a corner as good as you want, but if you have slipstream on, it doesn't make any difference as long as the person behind you stays in the slipstream range. So having seen some races now with catch up on and slipstream off, I would have to say that slipstream seems to be the game breaker rather than catch up. Now, I did say that in a previous episode, and I also took it back as well, and I'm going to take it back now. I don't honestly think that slipstream is worse than catch up, but I don't also think that catch up is worse than slipstream. I think they are equally as bad, to be honest. It appears that when catch up is on and slipstream is off, yes, the guy at the front is disadvantaged, but the disadvantage doesn't seem quite as bad. And the same when slipstream is on and catch up is off, obviously it's better than having both of them. The disadvantage to having slipstream on doesn't seem as bad as when they're both on together. And I would say that it's kind of a case of it's greater than the sum of its parts in that respect. Having catch up and slipstream on together is just a killer. It's just the worst thing you could possibly do. And you know, I'm talking about pure races, proper standard GTA races between many good people on a proper track. Obviously, you know, catch up and slipstream, they have their places in GTA races. You know, if you're just having some fun, you know, they are totally fine for that. I'm not objecting to them being in at all. I just don't like to see them in proper races. I would much prefer them to be off by default, but what can you do? So that's basically my rant about slipstreaming, and a little bit about catch up again, which I've done plenty of times before. But how do you race better when slipstreaming is on? Well, basically all you have to do is make sure you stay within the slipstreaming range. So if you're following someone, just make sure you get around a corner nicely so that you can stay within the slipstreaming range. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, and slipstream by them. Now, what you have to be careful of when slipstreaming is on is that you will end up going into a corner a lot quicker than you are used to. Obviously, because you've slipstreamed someone, you are going a lot faster than what you normally are. So if you've slipstreamed by someone, you need to brake earlier so you can make the corner well. Also, the same applies to the start of a race as well. When it's at the start, I think slipstreaming is probably the cause for so many bad starts in GTA races. Because when you think about it, everybody apart from the front guys gets the slipstream effect, and people don't realise that you need to brake much earlier because of that, and just go into the back of everyone else. It all becomes a total mess, and it's slipstream that's caused it. So when you are at the start of a race, if you are slipstreaming someone, which you probably will be if you're behind, you need to brake earlier and not get caught up in all of the mess that slipstream causes. How do you race with slipstream off, on the other hand? Well, that's a little bit more difficult. When slipstream's off, you actually have to work a lot harder to overtake people. You have to do a lot more to basically be able to show how good you are. You know, you have it's more related to the speed that you can get around the corners rather than just being able to stay in a good position and using it to your advantage that way. What I would suggest when you are racing with slipstream off is just focus on your own race, focus on trying to get around the corners as quickly as possible, and if you do have a chance to overtake someone, you've got to take those chances. Now, don't have any contact, don't just smash someone straight off, but you do have to take those chances when you get them. And also, remember when Slipstream is off, you can defend a lot easier as well, because people aren't just going to get in your Slipstream and be able to just fly straight past you. And again, when Slipstream is on, if you are finding that two of you are, that there's 2 of you or 3 of you who are all very close on pace, and it's going to be pretty much you 3 all the way to the end because of the Slipstream keeping you all together, be that last person, be 3rd out of 3 or 2 out of 2 going into the final corner, and use the Slipstream at the end. Now, if you both have that idea, that could get quite interesting, because you'll both be essentially wanting to lose when you get round to the final corner. But if you've got to think about how you can get the upper hand on this person who you're racing against, and if they are good, you've got to just wait for that Slipstream, because that's the only reason that you might as well just wait for it, because otherwise they're going to get into your Slipstream and overtake you. So you might as well be the person to do it and go win the race. But my biggest tip by far is to just turn them off. Host your own races, turn Slipstream off, turn catch up off. If you join a lobby that has catch up on, that has Slipstream on, leave, don't bother racing, because you will get frustrated. If you can't find any races where catch up and Slipstreaming are off and you want to race properly, you can join my crew. There are other racing crews that turn them both off, and just don't feel like you have to race with catch up on just to get a race. There's plenty of other options out there, and you will enjoy your racing a lot more when they are both turned off than you would with them both turned on. It's a lot more, you can certainly tell it's a lot more like a game at that point. If you really enjoy your racing properly, you'll certainly enjoy it when Slipstreaming and catch up turned off. And I would recommend, if you ever host a race, always turn them both off, and you'll just have a much nicer time. Even if you don't get good enough results, if you get wins with catch up and Slipstream on and you don't with them off, those 3rd, 4th places with them off will feel so much better than any win that you get because of a stupid game mechanic. So yeah, that's been my little discussion about Slipstreaming mainly, and a little bit about catch up. As you can see, I do get a Slipstream coming around this corner to get the lap over on him, and lapping doesn't happen very often, but the guy chose a bullet in this one, so that was quite funny. And yeah, let me know what you think about Slipstreaming and catch up. Do you like one of them, or both of them, or neither of them? Let me know down below. Thanks a lot for watching, and leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.